Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, and welcome to another African Ancestry Live. I'm Gina Page, president and co founder of African Ancestry. And I'm really excited to be here with you all tonight. Thank you for joining us. Menelik was here early. Welcome. Thank you for being in the building. Um, Chucky's here, Sweet Juju. A lot of you all, come on in, come on in. We got some good stuff to talk about tonight. I am very, very excited and passionate about this topic and our guests. When I tell you, I don't know how I was able to convince these sisters, very busy, very committed to their children and their children's education to join me, especially with school starting. So I'm going to jump right in. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to talk to, this is our Black to School episode. We're going to talk to three incredible sisters who are homeschooling their children. And I wanted to have this conversation because I believe that African ancestry is a very important tool for educating ourselves as adults and our children. But there are other tools out there, and we have a responsibility to learn our own history, to educate ourselves, to educate our children. And it doesn't stop. You know, once you finish high school, once you finish college, if you choose to go, education is a continuous thing. So I'm going to bring on my guests. The first person that I'll bring up is actually part of the African ancestry family in many different ways. Shout out to Christine St. Vil. For those of you who don't know, Christine is our Christine's company manages our social media marketing. And so everything that you see on social as related to African ancestry, it is thanks to Christine's company, Purpose Driven Media. And Christine, I'm always getting compliments on our social media, just so that you know.
Oh, thank y'all. Thank y'all. It's been an honor.
An honor. Wow.
Yes.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. Glad to have I think I'm going to do in order of proximity. So through Christine in Waldorf, Maryland, I was able to meet our next guest, Tashia Abdullah. Hey, Tashia.
I cannot hear you guys. Can you hear me?
We can.
We can.
Okay, I can see your lips moving.
Okay, well, we'll let Tashia work out her volume.
Let's see.
Here. This is, you still can't hear us? Man, we practiced this. We're not going to let the internet get us. It's going to work. So while Tashia is getting it together, we're going to go out to the middle
cannot
America.
Hear a thing, but I am going to turn it on my computer and see if I can hear from there.
Okay, perfect. We have Pamela Smith, who you all probably know on social as at Black Homeschool Educators. She is joining us from Montana, I think, or in that area somewhere. Yeah. Okay, you're still in Montana. Yes. So Pamela, thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to meet you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. And so the other thing I have to say is that while after we do a little conversation about homeschooling and the importance of that, we actually are going to reveal the ancestries of Pamela and Tashia. And in case you're wondering why I did not say Christine, Christine was born knowing her African ancestry, and we'll get into that. So why don't we start with you, Christine? Tell us or share with us your homeschool, your current homeschool experience. How does homeschooling play a role in your life, in your family?
Absolutely. So we started homeschooling. We are in year 12, which is crazy to me. In your life. But we started homeschooling. My son is the oldest. He'll be 17 this month. So we started when he was in kindergarten. And so we just saw some things early on that we weren't sure that we really liked. It actually was my husband's idea initially to start homeschooling. And so we decided if we were going to try it, we were going to do it while they were young, and we are still here. So we are now have a 13-year-old, about to be 15 on Sunday, and almost 17 in a couple weeks.
Ooh, that's
About to be 15.
So I think that, I don't know, we have some reverb. It might be Tashia.
Oh,
If you have
so
both
I
you,
think that, I don't know, we have some.
I'm going to mute you for a second. If you, I know you're on your phone and your computer, so if you could mute one of them. And then I think that'll, yeah, that's better. Perfect. Can you hear it? I mean, can you hear us now? You still can't hear us. Okay, let's go to you, Pamela. So Pamela, what is your current homeschooling experience?
Hi, well, I am in year 16 of homeschooling. We have 5 kids. We've graduated 2 homeschoolers. We had a daughter that just graduated college in December. We have another daughter who's a full-time entrepreneur living her dreams. And yeah, we absolutely love it. And, we found it to be very beneficial for our family.
Nice, nice. Okay, Tashia is trying to figure it out. All right, cool. So tell me this, because I was doing some research, me and my intern, shout out to Jada. We were doing some research about some of the common reasons why Black families decide to homeschool, switch from traditional schools to homeschools. And Christine, you touched on one of the reasons you made the decision. You said that you saw your husband saw something that didn't quite seem right. But can you share any other reasons why you guys decided to make the switch?
Yeah, I mean, I think there were a few. One, so in the state of Maryland, you have to be 5 by September 1st in order to start kindergarten. And so our 2 oldest were going to be basically starting a year later because of their birthdays. And so we knew that they were ready, but of course the system was like, no, they have to wait. And so, we saw that they were actually more advanced than what we were told, that they would be doing. And so we decided that, we didn't want to hold them back from being able to learn what we knew that they were capable of learning at the time. And, just also being able to really instill the foundation that we wanted to instill in them early on at a young age, whether it was their faith, just who they are, and being able to be confident in who they are as Black children. That was also important to us too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what about you, Pamela? What were some of the reasons that you made the decision to homeschool?
Well, we started off with our kids being in a private Christian school. And, we did what a lot of, people know me from my page. I'm very blunt. I keep it real. A lot of times when we get a little money, Black folk, we feel like we should put we have this thing where we feel like white is better. And so we had our kids in the private Christian school, and we quickly saw that their identity was changing. They didn't like their hair anymore, little microaggressions from the teachers. And one of the things my daughter experienced was she shared with the teacher that we were going on a vacation in Colorado. And the teacher said, well, how are you able to do that? Is it because of your dad's job? So things like that, I knew that for Black children, when they don't see themselves reflected in the curriculum and they don't see themselves reflected among their peers and among the teaching staff, it can do damage to them. Mm-hmm. And so I answered that call to homeschool, and I didn't know anybody that homeschooled at the time, but I was confident that, I was being led that way. And I'm thankful that my husband supported that vision. And so we're, again, year 16 of homeschooling.
Wow. Well, congratulations on your daughter's graduation. And the entrepreneur, has she already graduated too?
Oh yeah, she graduated, and she's choreographing for the Dove Awards. She's traveling the world with gospel recording artist who she grew up listening to, along with her husband. They're just a phenomenal team together, and she's living her dreams. And I really truly believe that homeschooling allows you to see greatness in your children. It allows you to build them. It allows you to see the gifts and really develop them. School, a lot of times there's a lot of distractions there. So like my second oldest daughter graduated high school as a homeschooler with her AA degree with honors. She had already had an AA degree, and we paid $0 for that AA because most states will allow homeschool kids to take classes and even books for free. So at your local colleges. So there's so many advantages to homeschooling.
Yeah, who knew? So that's amazing. So you can already start getting college credits and an introductory, I guess, college degree for free.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. Okay. So I thought, look, I'm just teasing, but I thought it was just Christine's kids who were these amazing folks. But I see that there's a trend here now.
There are a whole lot of us out there.
Homeschooling that does it. How about you, Tashia? What has been your homeschool experience? What made you decide to take that?
Well, it's funny. Of course, at the beginning, I had no idea that homeschooling was even an option. It wasn't something that I was thinking to do. But when our oldest two were in private Christian school, we started talking about it one day, me and my husband, and both of us had no background in homeschooling. So it was kind of like, are we going to do this? He said, okay, I trust you. We'll try it. And I was like, oh goodness, he trusts me. So we decided to do it. And we're in year 15, I believe. We've graduated 3. So yeah, it's not something I would have ever said we're still going to do even 2 or 3 years later. I was like, there's no way I'm homeschooling in high school. And we did. And we continue to do it. So, and actually our second oldest also graduated from the local community college with his associates when he graduated from high school. So it can be done.
Wow. So I'm imagining, in full disclosure, I'm not married and I don't have any kids. Okay. But I'm imagining that there's a huge sacrifice that comes with homeschooling at least at the beginning. It seems like somebody has to maybe not stop working in a traditional job, or like, what are some of the challenges that you all faced when you first started?
I would say real quick for me, I think one of the challenges was just trying to figure out where to start, right? So, not only where to start, but like also what is it that we need to do? What are the laws that are out there? And so early on, being able to find communities like the one where I found Tashia, our co-op community at Spear, and being able to connect with other families early on was really helpful. Also being able to find HSLDA, which is the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, and become a member of that so we could understand what exactly was required of us. And I think most times, and I don't know if this is true for either of you ladies, but when you first start, you almost try to create a traditional, schooling at home, and then you realize you're doing it all wrong. You're like, no, they don't need to be, in front of their books at home for 8 hours a day like they are in traditional school. So how can we make it work for us? And so for us, it was about understanding, when are our kids more alert? When are they going to be, more productive? What time of the day do we need to start? Maybe we don't need to start at 8 o'clock in the morning. Maybe we need to push it back to 10 when they're a little bit more alert and awake. So just really taking our time to figure out what it is that we needed and how we wanted to run our homeschooling.
I hear you say learning your children, learning yourselves, and then creating a rhythm within the family and within the household, in addition to learning the laws and understanding what requirements you have to meet. Were there any other challenges that you two ladies would like to add?
It's funny. I think one of our biggest challenges was the unlearning of what we all look at typical education, and to realize that learning happens all day, every day. And it's not just sitting, at a desk with a piece of paper or with a book. Yes, book learning is awesome, but I am a big proponent of let's get in there and get our hands dirty and figure out how we can do something. I would much rather you do a project than read it in a book. And to understand, like Christine said, that they don't have to sit at a desk for 7-8 hours a day and then, do hours of homework in the evening. If they're learning through their experiences all day long, then they're learning and they're holding on to it. They're not just learning for a test. They're not just learning, for that particular teacher. They're learning these concepts that they will use for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. Pamela, do you have anything to add?
I think one of the challenges a lot of parents will face, like my oldest children had experiences with school, whereas our younger 3 children have never been to school. When they've had experiences with school, it's kind of tough to pull them away from friends. So one of the things you need to really build is community. It can be tough to find your tribe. And so I encourage parents to connect with other like-minded homeschooling families, understanding that some of the co-ops out there are whitewashed, meaning that a lot of people, we're not all the same. There's co-ops out there that I found that the reason these people homeschool is because they don't want their children in the school with, BIPOC kids, So for Black families, it can be isolating. So finding your tribe, if you can't find it, I encourage people to build a homeschool center. I'm actually teaching a course this weekend on how to do that, but build a co-op. I was the president and director of a very large homeschool center in South Florida for almost 7 years because we didn't have the community. So I had to build it. So I think sometimes the isolation can be a challenge.
Yeah, I can imagine. Let's talk about the tools, because I didn't hear any of you say that you were teachers before this, before you started homeschooling. So how do you want, I mean, now you're all experts, so you got to go back in your memory a little bit, but how does one amass the right materials, the right tools? We hear all of this talk now about how Black history is being banned in certain parts of the US and Black books are being banned. But how do you get that, what you need to make sure that your kids are meeting the requirements and exceeding the requirements as yours all have? Anybody?
Well, I would say the tools that you need, you're going to have to do some research, because what I found, especially with history, you would get a history book and they'll have one paragraph about slavery. And so with as a homeschooling parent, one of the things I want to tell parents out there is you do not have to be a teacher. You are a facilitator. So you can facilitate your children's learning, meaning you can hire tutors. And when I first started, I hired people to come into my home. You can, there's online programs out there, even through your state. There's online curriculum that's out there. There's all kinds of programs that are in your community, like Mathnasium, all these different places that you can get courses for your children. You facilitate that. But when it comes down to curriculum, the very first thing I would say is find out your child's learning style. Find out the way that they learn, and then go from there. But parents will have to do a lot of sifting through material. You'll have to do a lot of, unit studies and adding things in. But there's a ton of tools out there to help you on this journey.
And I just want to add real quick to Pamela's point. I think a lot of parents' first instinct is to throw money at all these bunch of curriculum. And you don't need to do that, especially when you're first starting out, because as she said, being able to understand your child's learning. And we did that early on. That's one of the things we did is I gave them, there's free assessments. I actually shared one on Threads not too long ago where you can go online and do a free assessment, have your kids do a free assessment so you can understand what their learning style is. That way, you know, okay, like this child needs to be in a quiet space. So trying to play music or trying to have videos, like that's not how they're going to learn. Or this child, one of my child is, you know, a kinesthetic learner. Like she needs to be moving, she needs to be engaged in all of that. So understanding that is really important. And so I think that, you know, early on when I was trying to think back, like we did libraries, we did waste money on curriculum because we didn't look into their learning styles. We just went by what people were saying that we needed to do. And one size does not fit all. So you may be able to take pieces from different things, but also like these ladies said, community is really important. So we've always been a part of community from the very beginning. Thankfully, out here in country town in Waldorf, we do have a good Black community. So we've never been isolated in that way. So, you know, thankfully, you know, from the very first time that we started homeschooling, like our kids have known. And I'm grateful for the fact that they've been able to grow up in a time where I don't have a problem finding books with characters that look like them. And so buying all these books, shout out to Mahogany Books here in Maryland, DC, but I've always been able to buy them books with characters and people that look like them. So that's what I would add.
And I just want to say I'm jealous that you're in Maryland because I
come join us, come visit.
Maryland. I love it. When we went there, my kids were just so happy to see so many Black-owned businesses, and I wish we had more places like that in the U.S. because a lot of places are very much so isolated. Even when we lived in West Palm Beach, there was not a lot of people that looked like us that were really homeschooling. So, but now since the pandemic, there's a lot more of us that are homeschooling.
Yep. I think you're on mute, Gina.
I realized it was like they can't hear you. That was going to be my next question: is have you all seen an increase in the number of families that are homeschooling, and does that help with the community development?
I think that yes, the numbers of homeschoolers is exploding, honestly, and community development definitely, because it gives you more options. I can honestly say when we started homeschooling 15 odd years ago, there were very few co-ops around. There were very few organized co-ops in the more rural area that we live in. Now it's so many, and you can find ones that work for you. You know, it's definitely not one size fits all. So you have to search and make sure you're in your right community, but they are there. And I also think with the numbers exploding, it makes the traditional school system take notice, for lack of a better description, just because they recognize that parents are doing it. Parents have been teaching their kids, you know, since they came out. You know, so homeschooling is not so novel an idea, but with the numbers exploding, it makes those that aren't homeschooling take notice and actually want to know more, and don't just assume, oh, okay, all homeschoolers are weird and we don't want to be bothered with them.
Right. It's Lisa. Oops, sorry. Lisa F on IG said home education is the way forwards to educate the truth and help children to learn what will truly bless them and align with them to be successful and happy. I think that we can all agree that is likely. We can all agree with that. You guys keep talking about co-ops. So can someone tell me exactly what a co-op is?
We'll let Tashia lead that. So she runs a co-op right now, currently, and I know Pamela has run one.
I was going to leave that up to Pamela. But a co-op is just a community of homeschoolers that comes together to homeschool their children collectively. It can look differently. Our particular co-op, we do weekly classes. So different homeschool parents teach different age groups every Monday throughout the school year. Some co-ops don't necessarily have classes. They may get together for field trips. They may get together for other things. Then you also have tutorials, which are specifically just for classes and might not be homeschool parents teaching. Like Pamela was saying earlier, you can find everything that you need in one of these community groups, whether it's a co-op where homeschool parents are teaching, whether it's a tutorial and you've got homeschool parents or others, laypersons in the community that come in to teach. Sometimes you have the same type of groups at your local community colleges where you can find your community. So we've been in a co-op from the beginning, and it works for us. And it's like-minded people, trying to get their children where their children need to go.
Lenore says, this isn't a co-op, is not a new concept. And what I'm hearing you describe really is how we used to live, right? I mean, we used to live in a very community-oriented society where if it wasn't necessarily schooling during the week, because we went to traditional schools, there were activities that we did together on the weekends or after school to help build that sense of community. Pamela, do you have anything to add?
No, they covered it just right. That's exactly what it is. It's a gathering of parents, like-minded parents. I ran something different in Florida. I had an actual homeschool center, and it was a business. And so the reason for that is I hired all like teachers who were that had, most of them were homeschooling parents whose kids had graduated, and these moms had degrees and they just have been stay-at-home moms. And so I actually hired teachers, professors, because we had a kindergarten through college program. And so I had people that, had the degrees that could teach. And so we were more of a for-profit business, but it still worked. And we were able to be a blessing to kids in our community.
So there's a question, wouldn't that be like creating a private school setting? How is a center different than a private school setting?
The center is more so for the fact of it was more like a micro school. So we had a lot of we had more, I won't say structure because co-ops do have structure, but we were giving grades. The teachers were giving grades and all of that stuff, and we kept a record. So if they wanted to transition back into school, it was an easier process. We, helped children get into college, helping parents with transcripts. So, that was really the main difference. But it can definitely be achieved with just a co-op with parents, dedicated parents that are teaching, different subjects.
Two things I'm thinking of. I hope I don't forget, because I'm at that phase where I can only remember half of something every 5 seconds or something. But about the co-ops and the centers, I think that the way I met Tashia was I was invited to speak to one of the Monday classes, and for me, that was very fulfilling to be able to share with a group of students. And I imagine I could offer to do that at a traditional school, but I wanted to encourage those of you watching that if you know someone who is homeschooling or you're familiar with a homeschool co-op, there may be something that you may have some expertise that could contribute to these these students' experiences. And then the second thing is we've talked about going from private school or a traditional school to homeschooling. But I know that Christine, you have one child who made the decision that she wanted to go to a public school for high school. And so can you talk a little bit about that decision-making process and how you, to the extent that you feel comfortable, and how you and your husband felt about that, and then how's she doing?
Absolutely. So it's funny, I was going to bring that up because we talked a lot about foundation and being able to build them up. And so she had never been, I think she did private preschool maybe 1 year, maybe when she was 4. I don't know. But that was the extent of traditional school. And so, a couple of years ago, she started telling us. Now, this wasn't a surprise completely, because out of the three, she is our social butterfly. But she did talk about it. And so, last year we were like, okay, well, if they let you start a year early, high school a year early, we will, consider it, because we knew that we didn't want her starting in middle school. And so we, did our regular portfolio review with the county. We found out what we needed to do. And they actually accepted some of her math credits. So she was able to start high school a year early with credit. And she is thriving. I think looking at how she's doing now, I know for a fact that like her foundation in homeschooling is helping her excel, not only in the classroom, but she's killing it in sports, did track for the first time, made it to New Balance Nationals, like just having a really, really positive time. And so hearing the conversations that she's having with her friends, like I know for a fact, like her confidence level and what she has been able to do over the last several years as a homeschooler has prepared her for public school.
Mm-hmm. And does her experience make either of your other children want to explore that? How are they feeling about it?
Not at the current time. Junior definitely is a no. He is a junior now in high school. She's a sophomore, but our youngest, not right now, but we'll cross that bridge if it comes. But we're encouraging, the youngest, keep doing what she's doing. She's also a gymnast and trains a lot, so there's benefits there too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Have either of the other two moms had an experience where your children have wanted to explore public schooling? Or, I want to say traditional because it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, my daughter that just graduated college wanted to go to a private, there was a private Christian school in our area when she was in high school. And it's funny because she and I talked a couple days ago about this, because we were exploring whether we were going to let her 15-year-old sister go into high school here in Montana. And she shared with me, she says, Mom, I remember I wanted to go in high school and you guys felt strongly against it. And she said, I'm glad that you guys kept me on the track that I'm on now. She said, I feel like being homeschooled prepared me, and you get to make all those connections in college. Because she said a lot of times when you go into high school, there's a lot of cliques. But she said, Mama, when you go to college, everybody starts fresh. You don't have cliques and all that. And so she said, she really doesn't want her little sister going into high school. She said she only has a couple years left, Ma. She's like, let her have those, that when she goes to college. So yeah, we've thought about it with multiple kids, but we have always felt strongly with our mission is to raise up leaders. And for us, we know that it works for some kids. And I think it comes down to their personality. Like my sister just said, her daughter is a leader and she's all of those things. And so she probably wouldn't get into the wrong cliques and the wrong crowds. But for us, we just stuck to our mission is to keep them at home until they go to college. Oh, I think she's muted.
Tashia, were you going to add something?
I was just like Pamela said, we talk about, what's the best option each year in our house. Like, are we going to continue homeschooling? Are we going to continue homeschooling everyone? And there was 1 or 2 years where there was one child that kind of mentioned wanting to go to high school, but everything that he wanted to do for going to high school, I was like, you're already doing that, son. Like, you don't need to go to a traditional school in order to do all of the things that you are asking to do. And so that conversation kind of died down. It's interesting, though. Our youngest just started in traditional school this fall. He is 7 and then he's in the 1st grade. We were homeschooling, but he has a lot of difficulties that I was going here, there, and everywhere to get him the supports he needed. And once we were able to work out the fact that he could get all of those supports in one building, it made the decision easier. So yes, we definitely grapple with the decision every year. It's not just a foregone conclusion. But this is the first time that someone has gone from homeschooling to school in our family. But thus far, it's working well.
You're muted, Gina.
Rusty, y'all. I'm rusty. What I'm hearing you all say is that while you're committed to homeschooling, it seems as though your kids are very committed to it too. You're open. You're open, like you have to be, I guess, as a homeschooler, to what your kids' needs are and what their wants are, and just kind of manage it as you go, either on a yearly basis or whatever that is.
And I think it helps too, Gina. I'm sorry. I was going to say, I think it helps too that, we know what works. So if there's ever a time that we need to pull them back, like, it's always an option, right? So I think even just having the open mind and saying, okay, we'll see what happens and like Tashia says, it is a annual thing that we're just like, okay, are we still doing this? Like, what's happening? But even just to know that, okay, we can always pull her back, or we can make a change, or we can see what works. If it's not working, we know what our options are. And I think that helps also.
It sounds to me like one of the key elements of the homeschooling experience for the three of you is your children having a sense of identity, knowing who they are, being very confident about who they are, understanding their strengths, and building and nurturing those strengths. And those are all things that are part of the fundamental mission of African ancestry, because as you all know, we don't all have that. Your children are very blessed to have parents who have instilled that in them from the very beginning. But even us as adults, right? And no shade to our parents, but we've all walked through life as Black folks with this void. We don't know where we're from. In Africa, we claim African American or of African descent, but that's a big old continent with over 50 countries and thousands of traditions and languages and everything else, right? And so what we've seen is that when people of all ages find out where they're from, there's almost an instant change in how they view themselves. And then over time, as they learn more about that place, as they learn more about those people, they start to, their identities start to shift and evolve. That's the word, evolve, to embrace and engage some of those ancestral learnings. And so one of the ways, y'all, for those of you who are watching, I offered our guest today a test kit. I figured if I offered them a test kit that they would say yes to coming and having a conversation with me. So it was kind of like, what do you call that? A bribe. I bribed them with knowledge of ancestry to come on the show. And so we have come to the part of the experience where I am going to reveal their ancestries, but I would be remiss if I did not share the two empowered learning tools that we have at AfricanAncestry.com, in addition to our MatriClan and PatriClan test kits. So we have a Black to School bundle that we launched just this month that includes our Remember Who You Are study guide and the first volume of that. And that was really an attempt for us to provide a set of exercises for the user to actually remember who they are. So we have a lot of exercises in there, journaling, matching exercises. We have interactive exercises in this journal. We also included Urban Intellectuals Black History flashcards pre-1492. So this really is about helping us to understand who we are on a continuum that begins far before 1619. We have our Black to School notebook, which is just a lined notebook for you to keep notes, maybe do your journal, do your exercises, your Remember Who You Are exercises, or something with the Black History flashcards, and an African Ancestry pen. So the link to this product is in our bios. You guys can check them out. They're on our site, of course. And then we have a digital course, Ancestry Tracing 101, a roadmap to finding your roots. So African Ancestry is really a science-based company. We are a technology-based company, and I can't tell you the number of times that when I say DNA, people just kind of, their eyes glaze over and they automatically think that they're not going to understand. They remember the X chromosome and the Y chromosome, and that's all they want to know. They don't, they're not interested. So we've broken down this ancestry tracing industry and the actual how it works of these tests, so that for anybody who wants to learn a little bit more about what they're actually doing when they take an ancestry tracing test, this digital course is also on our site. And we have a code. If you use the code COURSE, COURSE, you'll get 20% off of the digital course. The Black to School bundle is already on sale. Okay, that's my shameless business pitch. Now let's get to the even better part of the day. So I thought that I would start with you, Pamela, and I'm curious about what made you say yes. What made you decide to trace your maternal ancestry? As you know, we use DNA for both Pamela and Tashia that they've inherited from their mothers, and that's called mitochondrial DNA. They've passed it to their kids. Their daughters will pass it to their children, and it's the exact same DNA as their mother, going back 2,000 years. So I wanted to know what made you say yes, Pamela.
Because I've been on this journey of wanting to know. The more I get into Black history, I'm a Black history buff. I love studying Black history. The more I really wanted to know, where I come from, who are my people, so I was very honored to be a part of this.
Do you have any ideas about what you're going to do with the information once you find out?
Yeah, we do world schooling. So we plan on visiting the country. Hopefully we can get some information and maybe take the children on an international trip to visit, to be able to go there and, as well as research more from Montana, but definitely want to take a trip.
Nice. Okay, so what about you, Tashia? What made you say yes?
So kind of like Pamela, I've always wanted to know. I've always wanted to know who came before me. I am a big family girl, and family first for everything. And so to know more about what makes Tashia is so exciting. And honestly, we've talked about different options for finding out this information. And one of my sons decided to use another program. And I said, that's fine. I said, but I can't. I said, I can't do it. I was really excited when I learned about African ancestry. And I said, okay, that's what we'll do. So when this opportunity came, I had to jump on it.
Nice. Well, I'm glad. Oops, hold on. What did I do? Sorry about that. I wasn't trying to. Woo, Lord. Okay. That was just a little anticipation for you, making you wait a little bit longer. So I'm going to start with you, Pamela. And I wonder, do you have any ideas about how far back can you go on your mother's line?
All I know is we're from Georgia, South Georgia. That's pretty much all I know about my mother's side of the family, is that that's it, South Georgia. Yeah, we don't really have a family tree. I wish we did, Yeah, my grandmother was like a sharecropper. She worked in the fields all the way up until she got sick. Even when I was a little girl, I saw her working in the fields, like working on white people's farms, being paid very little. So all we know is we're from Georgia.
Yeah. And you're not alone. That's all most of us know. Maybe somebody can go back to a great grandmother. You know, the history just wasn't kept for us for a variety of reasons. So I am very honored to tell you that we found your maternal ancestry on the continent of Africa, and it is in a place that you can travel to. Let's see if I can get this to work. You share maternal genetic ancestry with people living in Cameroon today. So as you can see on the map, Cameroon is a West African country, but it's very centrally located. It's bordered to the northwest by Nigeria, and then to the south by Gabon and Equatorial Guinea. So Cameroon is known as Africa in miniature. It is called that because of the diversity of geography within Cameroon, languages, foods, cultures, topography. Everything that you find throughout the continent of Africa, I'm told, can be found within present day Cameroon.
Oh, wow.
Now, there may be people watching, you got cousins in the chat. There may be people watching who took other tests and said, yeah, I got Cameroon. But what they didn't get was the ethnic group within Cameroon that they share ancestry with. And you share ancestry with the Tikar people, Tikar. And
oh, wow.
I just got chills because on Monday, the Sultan King of the Bamoun Kingdom, which is the home of the Tikar people, was at an event on Capitol Hill in Congress. And I had the fortune of introducing him. And what I learned is that the Bamoun Kingdom goes back to the 14th century, and they are the only African nation with its own phonetic script.
Hmm.
And I just thought, I'm going to tell an educator that she shares ancestry. She descends from people who created manuscripts. They have these Bamoun manuscripts in the palace that date back to the 14th century. So before any European even thought about coming to Africa, your ancestors were writing books and manuscripts. And so I was very excited to know that you and everybody in your family who comes from your grandmother or her mother or her mother, you have just now opened up the identities for your entire maternal line. And I got a tear coming down my face. So congratulations, Pamela. And I'm so grateful that you are part of the African ancestry family.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome. Okay. Tashia, how far back can you go on your maternal line?
Just the same as Pam. Matter of fact, actually, I don't think I met my great grandmother on my mom's side. So I have my mom and her mom, and they're from South Carolina. So that's all I got.
Okay, South Carolina. I love to hear that. When we talk about your maternal line, we also found it on the west coast of Africa, but your ancestors actually come from, your ancestors, maternal ancestors, mother to mother to mother to mother. Again, we're going back 2,000 years. Come from what was called at one time the Grain Coast. And we found your ancestry among people living in two countries. One country is Guinea-Bissau, and I have the arrow there because it's such a tiny country. I wanted to make sure you could see it. Within Guinea-Bissau, the people that you share ancestry with are the Fula people. And the Fula are the same as the Fulani, who are the nomads of Africa. They travel across Africa from the Sahara Desert to the Sahel Desert as traders, Traders, traders. They're moving merchandise across Africa. They are largely they are largely an Islamic practicing group of people. And I said that because your last name is Abdullah, so I was like, whew, okay. And I have been told, and I'm not biased because my maternal ancestry is also Fulani, but I swear to y'all, they tell me that the Fulani women are the most beautiful women in Africa. I'm just saying, that's what they tell me. That's what they tell me. We also found matches with your maternal DNA, your mtDNA, among people living in the country of Sierra Leone. And you can see that Sierra Leone is one country away from Guinea-Bissau. You guys are educators. You know that these borders are artificially and politically drawn. So at one point, again, this was the Grain Coast. And the people of Sierra Leone are master rice farmers. So much so that the plantation owners in South Carolina and the Georgia Sea Islands got their labor specifically from Sierra Leone because they knew how to farm rice. And so when you are in these Gullah Geechee communities in South Carolina, you might as well be in Sierra Leone. They have kept the traditions. The traditions have carried on from basket weaving to cooking with rice to the songs. All sorts of different elements of culture are retained right here in South Carolina. And so because we found matches with the same frequency, we found 100% matches to your DNA with people living in Guinea-Bissau and people living in Sierra Leone. We have presented both of those options. So congratulate you and welcome you to the African Ancestry family.
Thank you. That's amazing. And it just makes me want to research even more. That's amazing. Thank you.
Pamela, I wanted to give you a little time to absorb the information. How are you feeling?
I don't know. It's like, because you go your whole life not knowing who you are, where you came from. You know, like you say, you only know, well, you're from Africa. Your ancestors are from Africa. And it just, for me now, feels like now I can do research. Now I can try to make some type of connection, you know, and I can also share with my mom, you know, like, this is information that she doesn't know. And so, I don't know, I just feel a flood of emotions.
Yes, yes. And I speak for myself. I feel those emotions with you. This is a very powerful experience. And I really appreciate that you all were willing to share this with the world. I can tell you that Cameroon is a country that you can very easily travel to. We have relationships in Cameroon. In fact, we have an African ancestry family reunion, which is a specially curated birthright journey home. So we have a culturally immersive experience in Cameroon, and we go to Fumban, which is the Bamoun Kingdom, which is the home of the Tikar people. So we'll definitely stay in touch. And should you decide that you want to travel with us, or you take your crew on your own, we can help you out with some resources. And Tashia, the country of Sierra Leone is the only country that has offered citizenship based on African ancestry test results. And so you and your descendants are eligible for citizenship to Sierra Leone. So this work it's not just a test kit, y'all. It's not just a test kit. It's not you finding out you're some percentage of this region of Africa and some percentage of that region of Africa based on comparing you to 4,000 Africans. No, 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 no. That's not what we do over here. What we do over here is help transform the way we view ourselves and the way we view Africa. And you can learn that you come from people who invented a phonetic writing system. You come from people who were nomads, who were masters at farming rice, a staple of the African American diet, quite honestly. There's much more to this experience. And from an educational standpoint, these ladies' kids students are all pretty much along, up in age and done or almost done with their schooling. But kids have used their country of origin, their ethnic group of origin for all sorts of projects. We hear about these Jollof rice battles. Well, Tashia, your kids can make Sierra Leone jollof, and Pamela, your kids can make Cameroonian jollof, and you guys can decide which one is better. So yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. It is an honor to do this work, and it is an honor to honor you who do so much for raising leaders and successful student athletes and scholars and entrepreneurs and everything else. I'd like to know if there are any questions that you all have for me before we end. I went a little bit over time, but I'm happy to answer any questions that the three of you all. And I should say, Christine, shout out to Christine. Christine, tell them why you didn't take the test.
Well, I didn't take the test because my family is from Uganda. My mom was her parents were from Rwanda, East Africa, but grew up in Uganda. And so we grew up knowing where we're from. But also on Phil's side, my husband's side, unbeknownst to me, he took the African ancestry test in the early 2000s. And it wasn't until Gina and I met in like 2016, 2017, that we realized that was the test that he took. So Tashia, Phil is your cousin because he traced his tribes to the Brahma and Volante people of Guinea-Bissau. So, so you guys are cousins. So yes, and I just wanted to quickly just thank both ladies because when we initially talked about doing this conversation and Gina was asking for people, I immediately thought of you two ladies. So thank you for saying yes and being a part of this experience.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for thinking of me. I really appreciate it. Very honored. And this has just been a blessing. Thank you.
Yes, seriously, thank you so much, both of you ladies. This has been amazing. And yeah, I'm very rarely without words. I am without words.
Very rare.
I understand. That happens at every reveal. But if you guys have questions as you're going through the material, so your results are in the portal. You can log into your portal and you can see your letter, your certificate of ancestry. There's a link to a digital book that has information about the Fula and the Temini and the Tikar people. And then we have an online community on Facebook, which is a community of over 11,000 now. I think we're almost to 12,000 people who have taken our test, and they're sharing resources and information with each other. We are taking a trip to Sierra Leone this year, Tashia. We haven't launched it yet. We haven't announced it yet. I just let the cat out the bag. I'm going to get in trouble, but we do take trips to Sierra Leone. So again, you are able to travel to your country of ancestry as well. Christine, thank you. I wanted to make sure I put you all's your social media handle. So Pamela is at Black Homeschool Educators online. And Christine, what is yours? I don't know which one to use for you.
Just Moms in Charge.
Okay, Christine is at Moms in Charge. Let me show you that.
And mine is incorrect. It's actually Black Home Educators.
Oh, I'm sorry. Look at me. Let me fix that.
That's okay.
I was like, there's a E. I was like, there's a double E somewhere, but I could. Thank you for
It's yeah,
That's
Black
what happens
Home
when
Black Home Educators.
Black Home Educators. Look, spell the name right. Yes.
Oh wow.
I thank you all for joining us. And if you are so inclined, please share the replay with your friends and family, those who you know that may be interested in homeschooling, homeschooling their kids or their students, or maybe you want to get involved in a homeschooling co-op in your area. I'm Gina Page. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Until we meet again, may you be happy, may you be healthy, and may you be whole. Have a very good evening, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.